Everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. And tonight it's Thursday night, and every other Thursday night I jump on and share a technique. And I actually have to admit I was struggling to figure out a technique, and so thanks to my buddy Diane Evans, she suggested spotlighting. And I've been dying to play with the Tropical Hideaway stamp. It's a background stamp, and I've had my eye on this for a while, and I just got it. So I decided that spotlighting was perfect for this stamp because it is a background, and you can easily create a great background. And what spotlighting is stamp kind of an overall image and then pull a piece of it out and just add color to that. So I am going to do some heat embossing using, hey Lynette, black embossing powder. And then I'm going to actually cut a piece of it out and color that. So let me switch over to my desktop and I will show you how easy spotlighting actually is. I'm probably making it sound way more complicated than it needs to be. Hey Betty, welcome. All right, so this is the Tropical Hideaway stamp. I just love this one. Like I said, I've had my eye on it for a while. And I hope that I had a bit of technology issue trying to get on here. It seems that I've got a bit of a slow camera. So I have rebooted my computer and I've rebooted my phone. So hopefully all is good. Anyway, this is just such a pretty stamp, and I can just imagine it being overall colored in all sorts of greens. But I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to stamp it in Versamark and heat emboss it in black embossing powder, and then I'm going to cut a circle out of it, and that's the part I'm going to color. All right. I'm also using, this is a really cool sentiment stamp called Very Best Occasions. Lots of sentiments. I'm using the Thinking of You, but there's birthday, even Christmas sentiments on this. Just really pretty, and all different fonts. I love that when you've got such a versatile. This one actually comes as a bundle, so there is it's called the Very Best Trio Punch, and it cuts corners out as well as a ribbon hole. So 3 different punches in one. And I'm also using the Stylish Shapes dies for both my sentiment, and also I will use one of these circles to cut out. So, hey Nancy. So I am using Parakeet Party just because I think that green is so pretty. I'm using black as my background layer. And then I've got a piece of white already. So my Parakeet Party is 4 1/4 by 11. I'm going to score it at 5 1/2. Then my basic black is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And the piece that I've got here on the Stamparatus is 3 3/4 by 5. And the reason I use a Stamparatus is because I find it really hard to hang on to these background stamp sets when they're so large. This needs to go on the very largest block that we have, and I find it really hard to hang on to and then stamp a good image. So by putting it on my Stamparatus, I can easily get a really nice image. Now, I'm going to use the grid lines. This is a rubber stamp, so I don't need the extra foam. But if you were using a photopolymer stamp, you would want to use this foam grid. And then I always put a piece of the small grid paper that you can purchase so that I don't get ink on that. Now, I can't put the magnets on my piece of cardstock because I'm going to end up stamping the entire thing. So I really just have my magnets holding the grid paper. I'm going to put my stamp or my piece of paper cardstock on my stamp to start out with. Place it down onto my grid paper, and then hopefully when I lift it up, it will be in place so I get a nice image. Like I said, it really is going to cover the whole background anyway. Now I'm going to use Versamark because I'm doing some heat embossing. And when you've got a really big stamp, I apply the ink. I mean, when you've got your Stamparatus, you always do that anyway. But larger stamps, it's often easier to apply the ink from the top. So I'm just going all over my image using Versamark. And then we will give it a good stir. Now, if you've got, where did mine go? You can use the palm of your hand to press down. I find that kind of hard. You can do that. I don't know what these are called. I just took a jar that I bought at the dollar store, and then one of these felt. They're intended to be put underneath furniture. Again, I got it at the dollar store. Put that on top, and then you can use this, and it just really helps you to apply pressure over your entire image. Now, when I lift this up, I expect that, yeah. Okay, so because I don't have the magnets down, my paper has stuck to my stamp. So I'm just going to take my take your pick tool and peel that off. I'm not sure that you guys are going to be able to see that. And actually, I'm going to have to do this again because even with my pressing down hard, I didn't get the Versamark covering the entire image. So had I not picked this up, had I had magnets on it and I could have picked it up in the right spot, I could have just easily reapplied my ink. I've just turned that over, and let's try this again. What I'm finding is I'm not getting the image on this side, so I'm just going to make sure that I press really hard down this one side. It is the great thing about the Stamparatus is you can just take and reapply your ink. And I am pressing really hard just because I don't want the same thing to happen. Hopefully that's done it this time. Yeah, maybe Lynette, Post-it note tape. The problem is if I use Post-it note tape on any spot, I'm going to probably, oh, that's much better. Probably what I should have done is cut my piece of cardstock bigger than what I needed and then trimmed it. That would have solved my issue right up front. All right, I've got my black embossing powder. Ooh, I'm almost out of black. All right, so let's take this. I'm trying not to get my fingers in this because it will smudge that Versamark. I think this Parakeet Party in black is just going to look really tropical. At least that's my theory. All right, trying not to get my fingers so I don't smudge. There we go. Isn't that a fun image? Just so pretty. All right, there we go. Like I said, I'm the world's messiest embossing powder person. All right, see, I've got embossing powder. Despite me trying to not get it all over the place, I get embossing powder. Hey, Debbie, welcome. All right, what I am going to do is I'm going to take my take your pick tool and just kind of hold it down where there isn't embossing powder. Now, I'm not sure if my voice will go away when this goes on. There's Zoom or StreamYard does an amazing job of reducing the sound when you've got noise like this. So what I'm going to do is put this on high setting and hold it in spot and one place until the embossing powder starts to melt. And then I will start to move it around. And so you will know when it's starting to melt because it will go from this kind of dull matte finish to a shiny finish. So I'm going to keep talking and you might lose my voice, but so I'm just going to hold it over one spot until it starts to melt. And then I will start to move it over the rest of the image. It does take a few minutes when you've got a big image like this. Okay. I think I have it all. It's hard to see, so I'm just kind of holding it up and hopefully I can see all the shininess. Yep, there we go. All right, so I'm just going to let this cool down for just a minute and I will get kind of my card base ready. So again, I've got Parakeet Party that is 4 inch or 4 1/4 by 11. And we're going to score this at 5 1/2. So if your card base was 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, you would score it at 4 1/4. And as always, use your bone folder and then press towards the mountain, fold towards the mountain or that raised score line. There we go. Okay, now I've got a piece of basic black that is 4 inches by 5 1/4. So that will be my second layer. Now, okay, so this is cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my stylish shapes, and I'm not sure what size. It's either going to be, that's the second largest. I think the largest is just going to be too big. Yeah, I'm going to take and I'm going to cut out this right here using this stylish shapes. And while I'm at it, because I'm going to be using my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, I'm going to take this second smallest banner and I'm going to cut 2 banners out and I'll show you what I'm going to do with those. So let me just grab my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I think I have to use my largest piece or my big machine. I don't think I can get it into the mini. Okay, so let's cut out one of those in black. And then we'll take that. Not too worried about this if it shifts a little bit because I'm not trying to cut a particular image out. So I'm not going to use Post-it note tape. Hopefully it won't shift too much. So we'll run this through. Okay, so we've got this cut. Oh, I've got black embossing powder all over the back. All right, so we've got our black one cut out, and then we'll cut one in out of basic white as well. Hello, Florida, welcome. All right, I think that's all my cutting. Put that back. All right, we've got those, and now we can take this out. Now, there's a few ways you could color this. You could color it using your blends. I grabbed a bunch of blends. You could use blending brushes for sure, but I thought I would use my blends and just kind of color different of the leaves, different colors. So I grabbed the Parakeet Party. I use the fine tip around the edges. I grabbed Old Olive, and I also grabbed Evening Evergreen, I think. And I'm sure there's some of you that know all the names of these. I think this is a philodendron. I don't know that for sure, but it reminds me of a plant my grandmother used to have. All right. So I'm just kind of coloring this. I'm going over the whole thing with the light, and then I'm going to go in and add some darker spots. Okay. So I'm going to use Old Olive on this one. It's a dark, I hope this is the, nope, this is Granny Apple Green. So this is going to be kind of in that same color family. And I'm just kind of going in and adding along the lines that are on the stamp. And then we'll just take and blend a little bit. And normally I use the wide tip, but hey, welcome. All right, so let's do one, and this is the light evening evergreen. Now this is quite dark, so we'll see how this goes. But so again, I'm just using the fine tip because it's quite a small area. So if you were using your blending brushes, for example, you probably would end up coloring them very, like, closer to all the same color. I just can't imagine you'd be able to do much detailed work. Let's see if we can put some dark. All right, now let's use, this is the light Granny Apple Green. So it's very similar to Parakeet Party. Parakeet Party is just much brighter. So I'm not doing a ton of blending. So let's add just some of this on the lines. No, that's Parakeet Party that I put on there. Oh well. Where did my light Granny Apple Green go? It just goes to show you don't have to use the same colors. You can kind of blend and add in different colors. All right. There we go. Now let's put some other colors in here. So we've got, this is the dark Granny Apple Green. Keep pulling the wrong end off. You'd think by now I'd actually know how to tell. So if you haven't figured that out, there are two lines on here. One is thick and one is thin, and the thick line is the brush end. So I'm just kind of using a real mix of colors here. And then one more in Parakeet Party just to brighten it up a little bit over in this corner. Oops. There we go. All right. So there's some color, and you could do a much much do it much faster, slower if you wanted to, and spend a little more time at it than I've done. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm just going to adhere this down. And I hope that my glue is going to work, because I realized, oh, there it is, that when I was cleaning up the other day, I found the cap off, and that is often will mean that there's a clog in it. At least for me, that often is what it means. But looks like it's all right. Okay, so I'm just adhering this down on the black. Okay. And then let's see what I'm going to do. Where's my... So that's going to go in like that. But I grabbed this pretty gingham. This is the black and white gingham. So I think what I'm going to do is run this underneath like that. This will go on like that. And then I'm going to tie a bow right over on this left-hand side. So we'll put the ribbon in behind the circle. Let's see if I can tie a bow. Now, I always turn it upside down when I tie my bows. I've explained this before. It's because I like to be able to control where the tail goes, and I just find that I'm better at it when I tie my bows upside down. There we go. Hopefully I can fish that little tail out. There we go. So I just really want quite a small bow. Kind of like that. So I'm going to use a glue dot because I can control where those tails are kind of going to end up with a glue dot underneath. Like that. And then, because I'm going to try and have it so that the tails, or the bow, is kind of sideways on here. There we go. And I'll trim that in a minute. Now, let's take this. I'm going to use dimensionals to pop up this spotlighted piece. Oh, it's quite warm up here tonight. Didn't think it was that warm out today, but okay, there we go. So we're just popping that up, and I am taking and matching my oh, I got black on all my fingers. Matching where the stamped images are. And now I can take and use my liquid glue. Sometimes I actually don't have any. I ran out of Stampin' Seal, and I haven't filled it up. Usually when I have ribbon underneath, I do use Stampin' Seal. I find that the Stampin' Seal works really well to hold that ribbon in place. This won't be too bad because it's actually kind of held together, or held in by the dimensionals, and it's also held on the back. So let's see if I can trim my ribbon a little bit. Like that. Just going to cut on the diagonal. There we go. So there's the ribbon. Now we need a sentiment. Where are we going to put this sentiment now that we've thought about it? I hate to cover up that. Well, maybe we'll just put it right down here at the bottom. So I'm going to stamp my Thinking of You sentiment in Tuxedo Black. And I've got this, as I said, this sentiment comes from the Very Best Occasions. Hopefully it's fairly straight, not too bad. All right, now I've done this before. I often will cut an extra banner, and I cut it in half. You can cut it in half either way. I'm going to go top and bottom. but this gives me an extra layer. So I could have cut it this way and then it would be on the sides, but this I'm just going to cut top and bottom. And then we can just take, and you can decide how much of the black or whatever color it is that you want to show. I've got maybe 1/8 of an inch, maybe just over. Try to get them the same and even. There we go. And I will use dimensionals. Now I can use my dimensionals to hold these pieces on. So if you adhere your dimensionals over the black seams, that will help hold them in place, even though I have glue. This, and I stagger this because this is quite a wide sentiment, and so I stagger it so that it doesn't sag. And we will just, I'm going to put an extra, I'm going to pop up this bottom one down here so that I have a double stack on the bottom so that because it's already popped up. All right, now I grabbed black embellishments, but I think I need some parakeet party, so let me just grab them. So my favorite, and I've said this before, my favorite of the dimensional or the embellishments are these in color matte dots, decorative dots. So I'm just going to take some in the parakeet party. And we'll just put them. They come in 2 sizes and 3 different, or 5, all of the different in colors. So there we go. Let's just put one there. Okay, now that's the front. I do have a piece of, don't know what I'm going to stamp on here, but let's just at least get, gosh, I got embossing powder all over. Let's at least get some, a piece of basic white on the inside of the card, and then I can decide what I want to put. I didn't bring, I think some designer series paper would probably work out best on this one because I can't really stamp anything because the stamp is so big. But at least I've got a piece of basic white on the inside so that I can write a note. All right, so there's your spotlighting technique. The one thing I will say is that I'm not sure I got all of the embossing powder melted. So that's one thing that you will want to watch out for is on such a big card, like a big background, just make sure I can see kind of here under my ribbon where you might not be able to see that, where I think the embossing powder has just kind of rubbed off because I didn't fully get it melted. But anyway. All right, there you go. That's the spotlighting technique. So you can use this with any quite large images, probably work best. So background stamps are great. But if you've got a large image, you could actually cut a small circle or square or any shape out of it, punch out something, and do this spotlighting technique. So hopefully you'll play along, play around with it, and share your cards on my Facebook group. Remember, at the end of every month, I check out all of the cards that have been shared, and I send out happy mail to 2 or 3 or 4 people who've shared cards over the course of the month. So you could be one of those. Don't forget that I've got a promotion going on at the moment. I am so close to the incentive trip, and I need your help. So as I said on Tuesday night, if you put an order in with me during the week, I will send you the make and take kit for my sketch from the challenge for my sketch on Tuesday night, as well as, depending on your order, I will send you festive pearls and maybe the leaf fall embossing folder. So depending on your order, so if you put an order of $35 in, you will get the make and take kit for the card that I shared on Tuesday night. $65 you'll get the festive pearls plus the make and take kit, and $120 you will get all 3 items: the make and take kit, the festive pearls, and the embossing folder. So hopefully if you can help me or register for one of my courses, any little bit helps, and I would really appreciate it. All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the card. I will be back live on Saturday. Now, my time is going to be a little bit different. It's probably going to be about 1 o'clock because I have a team meeting on Saturday morning. So hopefully you'll join me on Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific, and we'll make a card together. Thanks, everybody. Happy stamping. Bye.